Hey Ryan, are we back?
I think we are. How are
Yeah,
you today?
I'm doing great. We've made it up to 5 episodes. We are a juggernaut in the podcasting industry. I mean,
We have. We've decided, and dear listener, not that you could see, our Rich's cat was so excited he jumped off the chair and wandered off.
I know. Maybe
So
when
I'm
we
not sure what that is to say.
and dear listener, what we'll do is start a Patreon, and for $1 they can watch us record the episode, which means that they get to see the cat and all the other stuff in the background and all the stuff in your background. Like we can have our own OnlyFans.
Sure. Yeah, that's it.
It's like I don't want
I
that. I don't want that. Anyways,
don't.
uh, Ryan, we actually have a very not really gaming episode coming up here. What's going on, man? What's on your desk?
Had this here. Finally got to one of my Amiga. Got all the capacitors off,
Oh no,
stripped
no,
it,
what Amiga?
cleaned it.
What Amiga? Got to go backwards. It's one of your Amigas. Which one?
It's one of the Amiga 4000 desktops. I
Oh,
have two. So I bought two in a lot, and I hadn't even turned them on, haven't
yeah,
even played with them.
right.
So before I did any of that, I was removing all the capacitors, and the battery had some leakage, cleaning some of that up, reconnecting all the capacitor, or putting new ones on there. This was my first experience with circuit capacitors, so that was a learning experience in its
First,
own.
first, first experience with what? What was that?
Surface mounted capacitors.
Oh,
So in
instead of poke through, you actually aren't going through the
correct.
board. Wow. Okay, so
No.
how do you pull those guys off?
What I'd use is I'm going to do a shout out to Chris Edward again. He does a lot of you cut them off. So you're using the snips. You
Yeah.
hold down on the top, you snip them off, and then you snip on the side to bust the aluminum that's around there, and then you can peel it off without lifting the pads. Then you cut the little legs that are left off, lift up the little rubber thing, and then use the braid and desolder braid. It's a little bit of work. It's not so bad though. It comes off pretty easy. And then you get left with two little pads. Then you use the braid on all these pads and clean them up. So when you're putting the new ones on, then they're easy just to touch point on,
You
and
just do a
easy
little
as
flux on there, or do you, by the time you're done braiding, you don't even need flux. You're doing all new solder.
it's all new solder. I have like a rosin core solder that I'm using. It's I tried flux on a couple. I've been still experimenting to get my
Yeah, that's why I'm asking
cooling
the
down.
question almost. Yeah, because I know I'm going to have some coming up, and I'm wondering where you are on that.
You may not, because surface mounted stuff did not really show up until the
What
90s.
What about that lot of Apple stuff I bought?
That stuff may have it
Yeah,
depending
could be.
what the time range is.
Yeah.
Because the Amiga 4000, the 1200s, which I actually don't have one of those, 600s, they all have surface mount and through hole.
Mm.
So there were two through hole capacitors on this board, and somewhere north of 20 surface mounted capacitors
Dude, did you buy a
between the
kit?
CPU board.
Did you
I
buy a
did
cap?
not. I
How'd you get
found
your caps?
I found there's some very smart people out there. Unfortunately, I don't have a link to the site that I used, but he documented which ones were all needed and actual part numbers. So I just went to Mauser or DigiKit. I can't remember, or DigiKey. We went to buy them. I've bought stuff from both at this point, and bought a whole bunch because I knew I had two Amiga 4000s, and I was just buying a lot of capacitors at that point,
Wow.
and then
I
bought a lot of through holes for some 2000s I have yet to do.
Dude, so you know that's everyone that seems to be the fun is you go, I'm going to go do this, and then you go, okay, now I need parts. And then you go, okay, now I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something else. Well, those parts are waiting to show up along those lines. So you're kind of outfitted for a little bit, it sounds like.
Yeah, I know I have enough for this one, and I have one more Amiga 4000 desktop sitting on the floor behind me that's going to come up next. This afternoon, I'm hoping to be cleaning out the case, go clean it out. It needs washed.
Yeah.
It needs washed. The keyboard needs to come apart and it needs cleaned.
Where do you
There's a lot
fall
going
on
on here, but
washing the boards? Where do you fall on the idea of putting the board in a tub full of water and soap and scrubbing it and then drying it?
I didn't do that. I used, I see, dear listener, but I have a little bottle, a little spray bottle that
Yeah.
has IPA, um,
99.
uh, isopropyl alcohol. This is 91,
Okay.
actually. I'll put some 91, or I have some 99 in a bottle yet. Once that's empty, I'll just switch out. So I'm spraying the board off and going with Q-tips for the brand in the US.
And
And they work. I had some old ones.
I don't know if that's a controversial thing or not, but it sure feels like it should be a controversial thing about whether you soap and dump your boards or whether you just spray them with IPA and Q-tips. I don't know which is better. I don't think either hurts anything. It's just, maybe I'm just not so confident that I'm going to get all the water out. I'm not so confident I'm not going to break something if I'm doing something that big instead of doing something little, just a little at a time. I feel more confident.
I, I know if you're doing water, you're going to want to use at least distilled water so you don't have residue left over from the water
That
that's in
makes sense.
there. I don't think I'm going to play with that at all. I'm going to
Mhm.
stay with the IPA route. It dries super quick, and then I can continue working, and I don't have to wait 8 hours or so
Okay.
for what till I feel comfortable to touch
Turn
it
it back
again.
on. Oh, dude. Okay, I got us all off topic. You did all your caps, then what?
Got all the caps. There's all here. I took the power supply apart, and
Ooh.
it was amazingly dirty. I am currently waiting on a fan. It should be here today, actually, as we're recording this. It's one of those nocturnes. Those are the ultra quiet
Mm.
fans. And then I'm gonna replace the other fan works, but it's amazingly loud.
Eh, Andy,
So these quiet ones have been great. I've been replacing them in some other machines I've been refurbishing, and they get feel the same amount of air going through them, and they're just so much quieter. It's unreal. This is the 80s. Currently has the 80s loudness to it.
oh, isn't that beautiful? And it
So
does turn
it's
on. You booted it?
yeah, it
Excellent.
has booted. I tried it out thing, and I'm like, sure, let's see what happens. Did I do this right? Because this was the first one. It came up to a Kickstart ROM, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
It's a good deal.
And then I have since booted it off an external floppy and played around a little bit. It works. I used Amiga Test Kit. There's software to test all the RAM, test the sound. All the audio channels work fine. And then with it booting off of the external drive, that means the CIA is working. That CIA is working well. So I'm pretty happy. I have not plugged in an IDE hard drive to it yet. That's soon. I bought a little board that's IDE to SD card slot adapters,
Nice.
so I'm gonna need to try that out and figure out how to make that work.
That is the way to go. This is the way.
All right, and then buy these Noctura fans. I've bought I think about 3 or 4 of them so far for different machines. Put them in here. They're just so much quieter. I don't know what they do to make them that quiet, but they work well. Pulls the air through. I haven't had any issues with it, and it's been great. So
I'm
when that
going to
gets here
say the
today,
advancement of technology from 1990s when it comes to bearings and fans has greatly improved, is where I'm going to go with what they
yes,
did.
yeah, I'm assuming some of that, maybe some design specs on the
Yeah.
fan blades.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's been great. Um, I was super stoked when it came on and it came to life, and I'm like, yes. So that, and then get
Dear
the case
listener,
cleaned
send
up,
me a
and then
picture
I'm gonna.
when that happened.
Oh yeah, I was super excited. I had no idea what to expect from this guy. And then get the IDE to SD card adapter to work, and then I'll have a booting machine and be super stoked about it. Or I already am, so that's exciting. So
That
we
is.
have that. So that's on my desk. That's been great. I
Uh,
know we also have we have a little bit of a news update.
What's happening?
So
Do
I
we
know
have some
last
hot breaking
time,
news? Da, 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 da.
wow,
Right from the desk of Ryan, we got a hot breaking news.
nice, nice. So last time we talked a lot about Gen Con
Yes, we
and
did.
the Gen Magic cards. So there's a lot going on there. Looks like they actually found the guys. Um, found a couple articles from Polygon. They've been covering this very well,
Yeah, good magazine.
and by the time you hear this, a lot more will have actually changed, I would imagine. But somewhere in this article here at the end, that they actually sold the stuff super cheap to somebody in New York who's like didn't know what it was, so he took it home and then saw this article online, and then
Oh,
called the local police in New York City. So yeah,
what?
yep,
What? They truly, okay. So this is, as Ryan was mentioning, we talked about the last episode. They stole a pallet jack full of cards. They did find a buyer. Someone did give them cash. That person saw the article and went, "Oh my God, I must have some hot product, or I want it checked." Is kind of the idea,
yeah,
huh? Holy smokes! What
yeah.
what a good person too, because I think that person's losing their money no matter what. So I don't think the person that bought stolen goods is going to get their money back, are they? I don't think that's the way
I
things work with stolen goods.
I don't know how that works.
Someone comment below, like and share, subscribe.
Per,
I don't know this answer.
per the article, per the Polygon article, a New York, like a New York attorney contacted the police, representing the person that was in quotes coerced into buying this pallet of cards for $4,000
Oh, that's bull.
that
Oh
were,
my God,
and
they had to
remember,
know
from
something was wrong.
didn't realize the true value, the attorney said, and when they came home and saw the Gen Con heist on the news, that's when they decided to go, whoa, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
And that's per the affidavit. So from the previous episode, we said, and they valued the cards at somewhere around 300,000, and they sold them for
Yeah.
four.
Okay, that
It's
might
like,
actually play in his favor. Or I shouldn't even say it's a he, him, they, whatever. I don't know who that other person is that bought him. But
yeah,
this should play into their favor that they paid $4,000 for basically 300K or 200K, whatever number we want to use, because it
yep,
shows their ineptitude of understanding what it was.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean
So,
if they would have paid 150, then it's like, oh come on, bro, you knew the value of this, you paid half, which is still a fair. If someone's offloading and you're buying, paying half
mhm.
is a pretty fair number. $4,000 means someone needed to make a car payment. I wonder why would they sell it that cheap?
what what are they going to do with it at that point? It's all over the news. This was
Oh,
a poor
true.
life choice all the way around.
Yeah, that was they were trying to get rid of the product,
Yeah,
covering their tracks. Well, I'm glad they got caught, and I'm glad that person saw the news and realized what they had. Ryan, we talked last time. I wondered if Magic follows any of this by like any serializing or anything like that. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think boxes are serialized, are they?
yeah, they do. Actually,
Oh,
the a booster box does have a serial number on it, so they
okay.
can know where it came from and where it went to.
How about when you
For the
break a
initial
pack?
sale, anyway.
Oh, how about when you break a box open? Are packs serialized? And for all those that don't know,
I
Ryan spent quite a few years in the Magic community and as a judge. So he has boxes of material and product always sitting around him at all times. And that's what I'm asking him to look at a booster pack. And let's see.
I don't know. There is a number on the back of it, and I'm not quite. It's not
Sure.
clear to me if it's the number of the box that it belongs to, but there is a
There is a number.
like a dot matrix. There's a number on the back. It's like a dot
Show
matrix.
me. Hold it up.
Dear
I want
listener,
to
I'm
see it.
holding this up to the camera, so my
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That looks like a production. That definitely looks like, when we look at chips and you're looking at that date code deal, that's what it
because
kind of reminds me of, is looking at chips. Are they
those are
exactly the
these
same?
ones I'm holding up are the same.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they came from the same box.
Yeah. Okay. So until you break it open to individuals, you have some tracking capabilities. It sounds like we're not magic experts, folks. Just send us emails and tell us how it works.
No.
I don't know. But that's an interesting update.
Yeah,
I'm really glad
exactly.
this is coming to a close. It's really sad that happened in our community. Um, and I missed ReaperCon this year, but I was on the mailing list, and I guess somebody took a few things that were sitting out and like some painted minis. And so they sent like an email
Mm.
going, hey, there's a reward for this. Hey, we got cameras. Hey, we're going to figure this out. Someone bring their stuff back to them. And let's just bring it back and call it good. So that I just don't remember things like that years before COVID, but probably we're all there. Probably all this dealing was there before COVID, but I just don't remember it.
Sadly, I know at large magic events there was always something. When I was actively doing large magic events,
Yep.
we routinely made announcements. Please watch your stuff. No one cares about it as much as you do.
Oh, and brother,
Because
if you had some type 1 stuff to trade off, you could have a lot of money sitting in your pocket.
Yep, very much so. So it's unfortunate that people think that they can steal somebody else's stuff, but unfortunately that's where we are. Cool. All right, and let's see if we can hear about Rich making his computer smarter.
Okay, this is all around the +4 journey, which for those that have been around since the beginning, I know it's been a long time, 5 episodes. This is my first hardware I bought at VCF East. Not that Ryan talked me into it, but I got the bug. Ryan just put the bug in front of me, and then it came and bit me. And I have gone through cassettes working fine, disk interfaces working fine, don't have a joystick. So at some point at one of these VCs, I need to buy a joystick so I could do that testing. But I really think this said tested working okay. I think it's tested working okay. So now I've started doing some development, playing around on it, doing some light programming. And
what are you building?
I'm building a text adventure game. I'm starting off with, there was a book I found, and I'll list it up on Internet Archives. And by the way, folks, this is exactly GitHub before GitHub was the idea. We would buy programming books. We would get them every month from the Commodore magazine. We would pick up a book with a specialty of what we wanted to do. And I found one that was code and learn. You're writing blocks of code. They're then doing about 5, 7, maybe 8 paragraphs of explanation behind the block you just put in. And so original GitHub, I'm sitting there with it on my iPad, I'm typing things in and kind of going through that. It's been a lot of fun. But then ChatGPT came into my brain and I was like, ChatGPT, can you program Commodore Basic? And ChatGPT said, 100%, I am fluent in Commodore Basic. What do you want to write?
Nice.
And I went, I want you to write a program that takes 2 numbers and tells me the values. And I went through those little bits. I played around. And I think maybe I even chatted about that all the way at the beginning of this. I don't know. I think I did. If I didn't, then this is kind of where I'm at with it so far. Now I've started to use ChatGPT and Commodore Basic to learn. To learn? Yeah.
How's this?
An example
is the +4 learning?
No.
Write the software.
I'm learning by having ChatGPT feed me back information. So like a great first example was ChatGPT, write me a text adventure. And it did. And it was completely linear, like one of my D&D adventures. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you just went in line. There was no functions going on, no routines. There was nothing fancy. It was boring. And I was like, okay, cool. And so then I started going, all right, well, how about write me something that does functions, write me something that does this. And I'm expanding on it, and I'm getting its answers back based upon where I'm at with my learning it from the book and how they, I haven't gone into arrays yet with ChatGPT, but I am in arrays inside my book learning on that side, doing that within the world of Commodore +4, Commodore 64 programming. Commodore Basic is what I should say. But I did ask ChatGPT to write me a Pac-Man game on the Commodore 64, and it did not write code that worked.
How'd that turn out?
Terrible. I loaded it all in. Even when I was loading it in, dude, it was only 150 lines tops. And I'm like, there's
Wow.
no way 150 lines are going to do it. But I'm listening, I'm writing it in, and sure enough, they're using the character set to represent things on the screen. And there's even screen cleaning
Oh,
and screen writing going on. It's just disjointed and it doesn't work. So
okay.
ChatGPT does some really cool things, but then it also just does some things completely wrong and thinks it's completely right.
Right. And like I've recently taken like an intro AI class, and we did some chat natural language learning things, and some stuff works really well, and some stuff really depends upon your input sources. So it's if it doesn't have relevant source material, it doesn't know what to do, or they're weighted one way or another based upon the input sources, meaning they can be very specific to a certain genre. So if it doesn't have a wide range of knowledge, it can only spit out what it has. Commodore Basic or is not a thing that it's been really taught on.
So is this an example when Jerry Ellsworth was talking out at VCF East and she
Mm-hmm.
mentioned how she had put all their SDK into ChatGPT and then asked
Right.
ChatGPT to write programs on their High Five platform. Is that right? Did I get High Five right? Let me look. Is that what she's working
High
on now?
Hi-Fi or High
Tilt Five.
Five.
Tilt Five.
Yes.
Tilt Five. That augmented
Yeah. Tilt
reality
Five.
gaming slash production kind of thing. Anyways, so that's what you're saying is it
Yep.
because she's fed it properly, it's spitting out the best it can. We don't know
Exactly.
who fed it what about programming when it comes to the
Oh,
Commodore 64. People have obviously, but we don't know what they fed it or trained it.
we don't know. A lot of those Chat GPT models are based on they're looking at they just suck in all of Wikipedia. They'll suck in like a lot of book repositories. So if stuff's in those, they do really well. If it's not in there, it won't do so well. Same thing as it'll. So if its stuff is targeting more towards a guy history, it's going to think more male from targets, or if it's more historically female roles, they'll think they're more female words.
Interesting.
In the class I took, more like teachers and nurses were more female occupations in the past, so that's what it believes they still are today. And like firefighters and police being more male. So you start asking it how close together a word is to female or male, and they'll skew that way.
Isn't
So
that
something to be
interesting?
careful of.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
our own older preconceptions, our own older blah, 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 are training it to be like us in the future. Isn't that weird? Our
Mm-hmm.
own little constructs, that's the word I'm going to use. Our own little constructs
Yeah.
are now feeding the chat GPT to make decisions in the future. I tell you, I'm looking back
Yeah.
through show notes because I want to make sure we didn't get too far into this before. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Um, what do you think about ChatGPT being a junior programmer for a team?
I think it's got issues. Personally, I'm not. I think it has a place in our society and inside of a team. I don't think it's the end all be all, and I don't really think it's ready to replace a person. I think it can make skills or do some jobs easier than what a person can do. So
Yeah.
use that as a tool, another tool in the toolbox or on your tool belt to actually make a person more, productive.
And
That
that's
makes
how
sense.
I feel
So
about having
yeah,
my Chat GPT Commodore 64 mentor, because I
yeah,
should say Commodore Basic mentor, because that's really what I'm starting to fall into is taking an idea that I'm doing here, asking it to see its results, and using that during my
yeah.
learning process. So I can't wait to get into some assembly too. That's going to be after this. And Ryan and I had an offline discussion. The plus four will be getting retired as soon as I do some more ROM testing because I want to test its built-in programs. And I'll be going to
Oh, nice.
64 development because I am worried that if I actually made something fun to share on the plus four, would it not run on other systems? Whereas the C64 is the largest pool for any retro development in the Commodore Rich Wisniewski world. That doesn't apply to
Yes.
Amigas, that doesn't apply to Apples, just in this little 8-bit world that I live in, that in the Commodore
Yep.
64 is the biggest pool. So I will be switching over to that. But I really love the cursor keys on the +4. I almost want a project where I steal the cursor keys and put them in. Wow. Wonder if I can make my own cursor pad and bring it in through the Commodore. Even
That'd be
if
very
I
interesting.
lodged it. I don't know. That's a really interesting question. But anyways, that's enough +4 talk. So that's just kind of what's been going on in my world.
All right. See, you were gonna go to an Atari meetup.
Fail.
What happened?
Failed. I am just
Fail.
Ryan.
What's
I
going
am
on?
never going to meet anyone in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that is in the retro community because I can't get my butt to the meetups. This one was totally on me. I was just worn out. It was near the end of the day. I've been out running around. It's been 100 freaking degrees so much in the summer here that when I
Yeah.
got home, I was just kind of done. The girlfriend was kind of like, yeah, I think I'm staying home. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to follow your lead. And so I'm going to try again.
Right.
There is another meeting coming up in October for Commodore 64
Ooh.
at the National Video Game Museum. For those that don't know, I live down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so I'm going to try in October to go to the 64 meetup. Fingers crossed I don't blow this one. We'll see. We'll see.
I want to hear a lot about this one. I'm very intrigued by this Commodore 64. What is this? You said a museum?
Yeah, the National Video Game Museum down here in Frisco, Texas. They host end of day events, or maybe even during the middle of the day. I don't know. You know why? Because I haven't been there. But the National Video Game Museum is amazing. And have I not taken you here, Ryan?
You have not. This is where I was coming from.
I am the worst
You
friend
need to
in the
go to
world.
this in October. You need to go in October. So when I show up in November, that you have a lay of the land and can show me around.
Dude, I have taken
So that just,
I've taken Al, I've taken Junk on Amy, I've taken Chris from Waco, I've taken people there. Unfortunately, I haven't taken you, which is really embarrassing that I have not taken you there. I'm going to say it wasn't open. I'm just going to lie and say it wasn't open last time you were here. That's all. I'm just going to say it wasn't even wasn't even made yet. I'm just going with that. That's my excuse. But other than that,
all right. Well, we'll see how this goes out.
On my workbench is the joystick, and I got a top cut, no holes, no square. Just like this weekend, I unfortunately got a cold on Friday and was kind of down and out Friday and Saturday, where I'm back up and running today. But we're recording. I'm going to get some things done, play a game with my nephew. But I really haven't been productive except for really vetting this +4 and trying things and enjoying it. Playing games off a tape is pretty darn fun. Only once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
And you're ready to put it back up.
I mean, the tape thing's really only the load and save process. When you're playing the game, though,
I know
it's pretty quick.
It is. It does. It works pretty fast.
Just do what you're getting ready to load something. You load it and then you go make lunch. Yeah. And by the time lunch is done, it's loaded, or vice versa.
It was really great too. I started playing around with multi-saves on a tape. I was like, I know I did this. How did I do this? And so I started playing around and I was like, oh, that's why you had to write down all the tape counter numbers on the outside of the jewel case.
Yeah.
You would write what you put with, at 3 minutes, 12 seconds, the next program starts and that kind of jazz. So I went back and recreated multiple saves and multiple loads. It was great. It'd been so long since I did that. I actually had to fart around for like 15, 20 minutes before I remembered how.
That's interesting because I remember having 5 and 10 minute computer tapes. So they rated them as like computer quality, whatever the differences were, who knows?
None.
I think they wrote computer quality on it and they looked different. But so they were only 5 or 10 minutes long. So you put a program on it and that was it.
Yeah.
Or a game or something long you used. So, all right, that's
cool. I didn't know this was going to work either. I was at my Half Price Books, and Ryan and I both like retro things all over the place. And they had a 4-pack of cassette tapes in TDK, brand new. 4-pack was wrapped.
Oh, nice.
Every tape was wrapped inside the 4-pack. And I got some tape recorders, that I could maybe want to dump something to tape. I bought this way before the Commodore Plus 4. And then I was like, oh, I got a blank tape. And I went and hunted it down, opened it up. Of course, everything's all sticky to it. You know what I mean? But I put a brand new TDK in
Oh,
it. And I was
sure.
like, I don't know if it's going to work. And it did work great. So I have
I'm
90
glad it
minutes.
worked.
I have 90 minutes, but I'm never
That's
really
all.
going to program the tape, but that's okay.
It's okay. I mean, you at least have the ability to. Who knows? Someday you might just go, leave me alone, kids. I'm writing code.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know?
And enjoy that part of it.
You
So
know, you
yes,
can.
that's where I'm at. And hopefully I'll have a adventure game to share one day too. Hopefully my little fun of playing through this is going to be great. But I've never, I can't remember the last time I did anything in Commodore Basic, but there's a lot you can do. It's
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
powerful for just being basic. You know what I mean? Along
Hmm.
those lines, I'm so far pretty impressed with what I'm doing.
I think, well, I don't remember, but I know like the 64 or they have a lot of that pet ASCII stuff there too. So you get all the extended ASCII
Mhm.
characters that do line arts and all that happy fun stuff. So that's a lot of really cool things going on there. And you can do a lot with those special ASCII characters for graphics.
Mhm.
I'll use the graphics loosely, but for graphics.
I have some of that coming up on lines where you'll do something before you report back. So 100%
Yeah.
totally take advantage of it. Um, you
Awesome.
know, but speaking of programming,
We got, well, we're going to go take a look. And I've challenged Rich to a Core Wars robot battle. So Core Wars is it's an older program to help teach you how to program. It's also called PMARS, and you build a little arena in a modified assembly language, and they try to go after each other and rewrite each other's program, and whoever's survives wins, and whoever's hits a data instruction versus a real programming instruction will die. So you're trying to infect their program effectively and inject a data block in the middle of their instruction blocks. So when their next instruction goes, you lose. So
if
it's a
you
very
launch code that's not your code, you lose, period.
so what it is, say we pick a random number of bytes in this core memory, and it's all contiguous. So an average number is like say 8,000 bytes. I will start randomly in memory. Rich will start randomly in memory. And then my program counter will move me up the start 1 byte. And then his will move him up 1 byte. But then we can jump around and say, oh, I want to jump 4 bytes and put this thing here. Or I want to jump 8 bytes or this here. And if I can jump into a place where his goes, then it will actually, he'll have to execute it. How it works is Rich's program runs one instruction. My program runs one instruction. Rich's program will run one instruction. Mine will run one instruction. So if we can figure it out to inject into there, we'll see who wins. And then there's a simulator to actually put these robots in, and then it'll run them, and then we see what happens.
But
To
we're
make
not
it
going to
even
run.
more
We're
interesting and put it in the retro themes, we're going to run it on one of them. Decided which one yet, but
Yes.
we're going to go do that, and we're going to see what happens and see which one of us writes the less terrible program.
Okay, so does that mean you have to type my program in for me?
We're going to type it in, or we're going to take it. Actually, I'll probably take it. I'm going to use one of my Amigas that has a network card on it, and I can just ship it over there pretty easily.
Okay, good. So I
So
can
that's
send it to you and then you do it because I don't want you reading my code, bro. I'm going to have secrets in there.
that's well, we're gonna have a lock-in day, and that's when our program is, and then we're gonna go run it. I need to go figure out how to run the simulator, and then get some basic stuff. It came with a couple robots just to
Oh,
get some
good.
ideas, and we'll go do that. I know in the show notes we'll put a link to the PMARS
Yeah.
um,
Code Wars
Code,
Challenge. Core
uh,
War Challenge. Core War Challenge.
Core
I
War
almost
Challenge.
can't say that.
Yeah, originally it was called Core. Originally called Core Wars, and for some reason they renamed it to PMARS. I don't really know why. So if you search for either one, you'll find information about it. So I think it's going to be a fun challenge. I think we're going to learn a lot. It's a scaled down assembly. We're only going to use the basic assembly instructions. There are extended ones that they've extended out in the later versions. We're going to ignore those for now and just use the basic ones to go do that. And I think that that challenge will be great.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up, Rich?
Dude, I am having a little bit of vacation and I'm having a little bit of extra work. And well, the first thing though is going to be going to CrimeCon, which is kind of on a lark. True crime. It's going to have podcasters there. It's going to have people on TV. Like Chris Hansen's going to be there. You know what I mean? It's CrimeCon.
Okay.
And Ryan totally got me on this idea. We were getting to go to VCF East, and I got signatures on that ridiculous what is it, 12-inch optical worm drive cassette thing that everybody signed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to get some signatures at CrimeCon. So now I have to be super creative and retro themed.
Oh.
In with things that I like. I have the Commodore 64 text adventure Deadline, where right on the front is a person that is like marked out with tape and you're trying to solve a murder mystery. So I thought, what a better thing to take for them to give me signatures on, because I can put it behind me and it's not only retro, it's Commodore, and it's about crime.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see if I get some good laughs out of that whenever I go to get my signatures. But there's like 3 or 4 folks I want to get a signature from, and I will do that. I'm just looking at ways that were better. You know, we do other events and you'll get a signature on a picture. Now all of a sudden you got 10 pictures when I just want one thing with 10 signatures on it. So thanks for the thing for VCF East. It's going to live when I go to other ones. And then this CrimeCon one will probably get signed once and never happen, because we'll never go back to another CrimeCon. But we're just looking forward to trying something new. The girlfriend and I are going to have a great little weekend next weekend.
Oh, nice. Where's that at?
Orlando, Florida.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So
that's not like that's not a local thing. That's
no, this is
you're getting out of.
If you go look at CrimeCon 2023, you're going to see a big lineup of a lot of big people. I guess this is kind of like their show of the year. So kind of like our Gen Con. This is like their Gen Con.
All right.
And it has tons of panels. I think we're going to have a good time. I think it's a one and done. For me, I think it's a one and done. That it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'd want to go listen to all the same stories or the same things again. I don't know. We'll see. No, probably not.
You never know.
Never know. You do.
It could be fun.
That's all. There's on my plate. I don't
right.
know. What do you got coming up next week, brother?
All right. I think we go get the Core War sorted out.
Oh, that's right.
And we're gonna have a good time.
Dude, well, I think that brings us to an end.
I think it does. Well, thank you all, dear listener, for following along, and hopefully you enjoyed our discussions today of some good vintage topics.
And random. We're pretty random on where we go. We bounce around.
We are random.
But all right. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thanks.